Oh, well,
Hey,
live.
hey, good day, everybody. This is welcwelcome back to the Indian Boxer Ring, to the exclusive interview today with Juanita Strachan or Strawn. Um,
Strong.
Strawn, yes, thank you. So we have an interesting interview ahead of you. Just a bit about Junita. For the ones in Australia, you know her already. She's a well-known person in the ring. She's shown enough dogs in the past, so you know her enough. But for the rest of the world, Junita is been breeding boxes for the last 41 years, and she in this time has bred boxes under the Thasrite prefix, having having bred and owned about 108 boxers, and she's also bred her second breed Bostons as well. She's actually owned and kept about 15 champion Bostons as well. Now, in the interview today, Jonita is going to share her journey about boxers, and she's also going to share about what the secret or formula for success has been in having bred such wonderful dogs so far. Jonita, how are you doing?
I'm here. Yep. Hope everything goes well.
Wonderful, excellent. Uh, Janita, before we go ahead, for the benefit of people that are watching from India, from Australia, in fact, all over the world, could you share with our viewers on the reasons you chose to keep and breed boxers?
Well, I became involved with boxers when I first met David Strawn, who's now my ex-husband, and that was back in 1979. And I really loved the personality of them.
Okay, okay. And so, in terms of was this like love at first sight? You know, was it a boxer? Did you were you a doggy person when you were growing up? Did you have dogs in your family?
Yes, we had dogs in our family, and I did dabble about 5 years before I actually met David in showing English Staffordshire Bull Terriers. But the
Hmm.
boxer had such a lovable, outgoing, and yet it could be such a sook and butter wouldn't melt in its mouth expression when they did things wrong.
Mm. Well, you know, we all have our reasons why we got into boxes, but again, once we get into the breed, I don't think we leave the breed anymore. It's such an endearing breed, and it's wonderful. Now, I want to actually ask you a question about you know, when you started with the breed. Did you have any mentors? Did was David a mentor for you? And if you had mentors, what who influenced you the most and why?
Well, well, David was the one who introduced me to the breed, so in a way, you can say he was a bit of a mentor. But when we started to travel overseas, a Dr. Bruce Katanak, who is now passed on this year, and he was very down to earth, and you can have very good in-depth conversations with him. And we actually imported a dog from him, which became an Australian champion, Stainmere Starchan.
Hmm.
And another person who could fill you in with a lot of history and assist you, Pat Heath of the Seafield Kennels. And
Hmm.
we bought a beautiful bitch in from her called Seafield Sheer Delight. Actually, she was found for us, was, how would I say, yes, Stafford Summerfield actually found her for us,
Hmm.
because we bought in from Stafford Summerfield a dog which became a champion in Australia called That's Right of Panfield.
Hmm.
Um, he had his junior warrant in England, and we were looking around for something, a bitch to complement him, and he found Sheer Delight for us. And that was in England. And plus, we did a lot of correspondence with Stafford, and he, being a journalist, he had a way with words. Um, and then in America, um, Margaret Cray of Crayons,
Hmm.
Kennels, you could sit down and the wealth of knowledge that she had, and where the dogs breeding and where this came from and that came from. And she was always going, tut, 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 tut. Remember, keep an open mind. So them, and another person was Billy McFadden, who passed away last year. She was very much into the health of boxers in America. And then in Australia, I met through David, Victorian people. Judy Horton was another one. Graham Mizzen, he used to show Bostons and then boxers, but his wife now shows poodles, and so does his daughter. And he was a Compride prefix. And the other one is Anna Dean of Aspen, and Elaine Davies of the Ton-Up Kennels. You could sit and discuss dogs and pedigrees and where the various aspects of what you liked and didn't like about them came from. In other words, they knew their pedigrees and where everything came from.
Right.
And the other good thing for mentoring is sitting with other breeders of other breeds to see their perspective of their breeds, to give you an overall. Don't become tunnel vision.
Right. True. And again, this is, we're talking about the age when there was no internet.
Yes.
And, we're talking about a time when the correspondence was done by, like you rightly stated, by mails.
Yes.
Or, pick up the phone and call people. Right. And I can just imagine the amount of conversations that you would have had in your learning process to learn about the breed.
Yes.
I'm sure it would have been really interesting. Now, in terms of your learning, in terms of your learning about the breed, was it a lot of, how did you learn about the breed? Was it a lot through talking to people, or was it with reading books, or going to shows, or was it a combination of all of them?
It'd be a combination of all of them, and knowing what a good dog was and the conformation and how it was all put together, and your anatomy, that to know. And then you'd say, something about a dog, and then someone would say ringside, you'd be talking, they'd say, yes, but look at this. The main thing is, don't fault pick. Don't pick the little things, because if you pick on a fault, you lose the good points as well.
True.
Yeah.
True. No, very,
and
very
also, I remember having read Elizabeth Summerfield's book and going through that, and she said, you always mate the good-looking guys to the good-looking girls. And that is something that I've always kept in the back of my mind.
Right. The taste of the recipe is in the ingredients that you put in the bowl, right?
Yeah,
so
it's
what you put in there.
Put in the bowl and mix. Because with Elizabeth Summerfield, when you read her book, it's quite interesting. But Thasrite of Panfield was a pup in the actual last litter she herself bred before she passed away. When she was pretty crook in hospital, Stafford took this little pup in a wicker basket into the hospital for her to have a look, which he thought was the best one in the litter. And she looked at him and said, that's right. So hence was called Thasrite of Panfield. And she said, he's just like Moses in the bulrushes. And so his pet name was Moses. And he was campaigned over there. But we were very fortunate to be able to secure him, or David was. And he came to Australia, where he was a very prolific sire.
Right. And I'm going to I do have a few questions about him, and also about a dog, which to me, just jumped out. When I read the book World of Boxer for the first time, and I got my hands on the World of Boxer the first time, one of the few dogs that actually stuck to my mind was one of your dogs, and I'm going to talk about that. And for those ones that are watching, that dog was Prince Charming. Or Rudy. I believe his call name was Rudy.
Rudy.
Was right. We're going to talk about that. Now, before we get into that, Juanita, I wanted to actually ask you. Now, you did mention about reading books, talking to people, getting a perspective of the boxer in your head.
Yes.
the template of the boxer in your head. Did you actually start off with that blueprint of the ideal boxer in your head, or was that something which evolved with your breeding over the years?
Well, it would be when I went through the book of the Boxer Blarney. And that, when you look at that, you've got the same dog with dropped ears and cropped, and the optical illusion of the head, but the bodies, it doesn't matter what the ear placement is. That is something I've always kept in my mind of, that's what I want a dog to be or to look, that's what I look for.
Right.
And when you go through that book, I've got it here. Hang on.
I'm going to put it up on the screen.
Marion Fairbrother was the author, along with Peggy Thompson, who did most of the artwork. And considering it was written in 1965, and then in the mid-80s, Margaret Cray, she did a reprint of it. So, and it goes through in depth of showing you the various aspects of the mouth, various types of mouths, the heads, the gaits, all well done. And also the other book, which was one of the first books that David gave me to actually read, was My Life with Boxers by, who's known as the mother of the breed. That and what she did for our breed through the war years to survive. And the other thing too, when you're learning, and which also when young people come into the breed, is the canine terminologies, so that you know what you're talking about with your canine terminologies. And that is written by a Dr. Harry Spira, who was a very well-respected vet here in Australia. And actually that book is used, I know, overseas a few times, because I remember Bruce Catnop asked us to get a copy of that when he was doing a paper for something on some breed, because he did a lot of work on other various breeds as well. Right.
Well, I hope these books are out in print. I'm going to keep them on the screen for just a little bit for those ones that want to make a note of these books. But these are wonderful books. I have the fortune of I've been fortunate enough to have one of them, but I have two more books to buy since I have them on my screen right now.
Yeah. Which one have you got?
I actually have the one about terminology. Canine terminology. Yes.
Yeah. It's very useful, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. Especially for it helps me prepare for the interviews with breeders like you. It gives me a lot of perspective and makes me answer some questions which will actually make the best use of your time as well.
Yeah. Although the Boxer Blarney, Dan Buckwell has done something similar in America, and it's called the Boxer Blueprint. I think that's
correct.
called.
That's right. Yeah, coincidentally.
And his sketches, or his wife did the sketches. They're a slightly different type of a sketch, but just that I myself, probably because I started off with it, the Boxer Blarney is the one I always go back to.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now I want to actually, you had a lot of success over the years, Juanita, with your breeding program. So my next question is going to be something I ask all the breeders who come on this particular podcast or web interview rather. What could you talk about the breeding principles, the line breeding, inbreeding, and outcrossing? What would be your recommended approach for a newcomer?
I wouldn't definitely say you got to do this or that, because you have to be very careful and know your dogs as you go back in your pedigrees. Now, when it comes to line breeding, that's right, a Panfield was purely line bred on Picasso. Picasso, Seafield Picasso, English champion Seafield Picasso, he was 4 times his great-grandsire. So there was a stamp that was going to come through. You could always, and people would see his children and say, that has to be by that's right, a Pantfield, Moses. And especially the bitches. It was mainly the bitches. You always could pick it. Now, inbreeding, that's where you have to be very careful, I believe. People may differ, and really know what you want to achieve. What do you really want to achieve? By doubling, because you could be doubling up on the good points, has this, that, but also be aware of what the faults are too. Because in the mixture, if it's not mixed right, the genes, when they get together, you could get all the faults.
Right.
None of them. But you have to know really about that. So you've got to weigh up the points and really know what you're doing there. Outcross, yes, we've done a few, we've done outcrosses, but you go out to hopefully obtain the good points there and come back. And depends on which way you outcross, whether you stay on the sire side or of the outcross, you want to introduce a bit more of that, or the bitches, but know as well, it's, how would you say, know what they look like, know what their children look like, and hope that you can get what you want. And doing a bit of outcrossing, because a lot of our stuff is, you could say, line bred back on about the 4th or 5th generation. Because although we brought Thasrite a Pantfield to Australia, his father at the same time, Goldsmith, went to America. And a lot of the American, the 2 lots of American semen we've bought in have had that in the pedigree as well. So it's a subtle tie-ups there. True.
And again, I've heard this personally. I've heard this this breeding theory. I think it was coined by Lloyd Beckett or Beckett. I'm sure I'm pronouncing his last name wrong. The theory is the best breeding, line breeding. They, according to Lloyd Beckett, is let the sire of the sire be the grandsire of the dam. Is that what are your views about that particular theory?
Run that one again by me. Let the what?
Let the sire of the sire, be the grandsire of the dam.
The sire of the sire be the grandsire of the dam.
That's right.
I'd have to give that a bit more thought, because the sire of the sire is also the sire of the dam.
The grandsire of the dam, yeah.
The grandsire. Oh, right. Right. So you're back at a generation.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to see that a bit more on paper to work that one out. Sorry about that. You caught me out on that one. Yeah.
Okay, no, not at all. That's not the intent at all. But yeah, we could come back to that, or we could do that later. That's fine. Now, you actually stated Australia is actually a mixture of styles. The dogs that I've seen in Australia, you have breeders that breed on English styles. There are breeders that breed on American styles. Now, I know you started with the English style boxes with the Seafield line or Panfield line, boxes of those lines. What was the thought process behind starting off with the English style boxer? Because I'm sure the American style boxes were quite popular then as well. What was
way back then? No, Australia was predominantly English. So a lot of English stock came out into Australia. When I read books and that, a lot came out in the 60s and 70s. And America didn't come out till a bit later. Now, we went first time to England in 85, and we saw because our eye had been used to the English stock and stuff, and there were some lovely English boxes then, because there was one that really caught my eye. Hang on. Back then in the 80s was a lovely bitch called Tonatrin Glory Lass. I don't know whether that will come up at all.
Okay.
But the style, and they had lovely bone. And she was one that stuck in my mind back then. And because the world without the internet then, we used to use by correspondence, and there was a book called Boxer Review, which came out of America. And sometimes you'd see in there lovely dogs, and other times you'd see dogs you thought, oh, no, I don't like. And wasn't until the first trip to America to the Boxer Club, for me personally, David had been before, when he judged over at Newark, the New Jersey Boxer Club, where you got to see their dogs and appreciate, yes, the quality of their dogs, and also going to an ABC. And we knew then that we had to blend, because some of the English we had here was a bit too heavy, although they got good bone, and we just needed to get more elegance into the breed. So it was just a matter of mixing them. The European can't make any comments, only photos I've seen of them, and I've not been to a show in Europe at all to be able to make any form of comment. Some of the photos I've seen, I go, oh, my God, no, thank you.
Okay. So. All right. Now, again, I know you initially started with 2 English boxers, and what made you bring those American dogs into introduce them into your lines? Like, you brought a dog from Tudor Boxers called Murphy. Thasrite, it was Tudor's cross time, and then you brought another American dog called as I think you brought semen out of this dog called Easy Money, Creon's Easy Money.
Yes, the thing was, the reasoning behind that, because after having been to England a couple of times, there was at a show, and there was a dog there that David really liked called Flashbang Wallet, Phaedon Flashbang Wallet, and he wasn't available. And we just said to Sue Harvey, we like that style and the lines, and that's when we got this dog called, she bred a dog and sent us the photograph, called Phaedon Razor Riot. And Phaedon Razor Riot, I think he was a dog ahead of his time. He didn't actually fit in with the English stock. And so when we got photographs, and we're going out for tea one night with some friends of ours, Dee and Derek Hyde, who were all breeds judges, and showed terriers. And they saw the photographs and thought, wow. We said, yes, that's what we think, and that's what we brought him in. Now, he was another predominant sire, and you could pick his stock, and we were getting a bit of exaggeration, so therefore we wanted something to blend to bring it back. And when we were over in America, went over there and I had a girlfriend who happened to live just down the road from Margaret Cray, and we went there and we saw Easy Money and thought, here's what we need to bring a bit of balance back in, because he was a nice, balanced dog. And and that's why we got semen from him. And the semen we got from Surfbreaker, David had gone off with a friend of his, to an ABC, and had seen him being handled by Mel Holloman. And he did a lot of video of him, and he then came home and showed me the video and said, oh, what do you think of this dog? And I thought, oh, yeah, he looks all right. And we got semen from him as well. And back then it was a real convoluted process to bring semen. The dogs had to be live dogs, and the amount of tests, and at various weeks it had to be done. And we can thank Margaret for taking Boomer up to have all these tests done. And also we can thank Mel for talking the owners of Surfbreaker for getting all these tests done as well, because back then it was horrific, all the tests, because of the quarantine rules and regulations here in Australia. And Turo's cross time, we got him because he was the half brother to what was her name? A big winning bitch. Actually, when David judged over there, the ABC, and I was over there, she ended up going opposite sex in show. I can see.
Okay, I'm good.
I can see her in front of me, but I can't see her name. It was a half brother, and we managed to get him because he was a failed crop dog.
Mm.
And he has produced some lovely stuff again on the English breeding we had. So we have been lucky with the combination of the English and the Americans.
Right. Juanita, I want to actually ask you this question about you've successfully blended styles of English and American style boxers. You blended those styles,
Yes.
the English and the American, into your breeding program.
Yep.
What strengths do you see in the different styles of
I've
boxers?
just looked at my notes. Yes, it was American champion Kimberly's Tradition of Tyros.
Keebler's Traditional Puro. Yes, correct. That's right. Yes.
She was a lovely bitch.
Right. So my next question to you is about the strengths that you see with blending different styles of boxers, the English and the American. What strengths do you see with these different styles?
The different styles. Well, put it this way, as they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
True.
Yes. So you've got to have soundness. And breed type, very important, your breed type, your soundness, and which makes them being able to hold themselves up and move well.
Right. So breed type, movement, and and then the dogs should actually have, if you were to simplify it, if you're going to be blending styles, should you be blending dogs of same style, or they should look similar to each other, or would you recommend blending totally different looking dogs?
They should complement each other. Now, if you've got what do you want when you do a breeding, right? This is the bitch I've got. What's wrong with her? Right. She's got a fantastic head. I don't like her rear end. Or she could do with a better lay back a shoulder. What dogs around that can move? And you sort of look at the dogs and think, oh, I like his angulation. No, or the angulation won't complement my bitch. The movement, oh, no, I do not want to introduce that form of a movement into my breeding program, because when some people say, oh, gee, that boxer moves well out and back, but get it on a sewed profile, no, it chops around the ring. They've got to have reach and extension.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. Very, very rightly said. Now, my next question, Juanita, is going to be about, and of course, for those that are watching this interview, I don't have to be the one asking all the questions. If you do have a question, and I'm sure you would, please put your question under the comments, and I will make sure that I present them to Juanita. Agree to answer your questions as well. So please don't hesitate to put your questions up on the comment section. So while we're waiting for those questions to come by, Juanita, I have a question myself. How do you research your litters? Could you simplify that process for those viewers, for those ones watching today, or those ones that will be watching later?
How do you research my litters?
Correct, that's right. Yeah. How do you select the breeding partners? The male and the female. Is that an extremely difficult decision, or do you plan it ahead? Do you actually plan it ahead of time?
Well, you make your bitch and your dog, and you hope that there's something lovely in the litter. But you research your pedigrees, and you research. You see if you got the bitch, and so you look at what's around and what they have produced. You first of all, you obtain their pedigree, and it's good that you need to see them in Australia in the flesh, because some people can stack it, and especially in America, the handlers, some of those handlers are fantastic. As they say, on the stack, they've got it beautiful, the arch of the neck, they know, and the photographer knows how to take the photo and tells the handler what they're doing wrong. But to actually see them and put your hands over them and feel them for yourself. And you know what bitch you want to use, and you have to know what the faults are of the bitch. And you look at her pedigree and you look at the two pedigrees to see whether it's going to be a complete outcross or where there may be subtle ties in, but also know the dogs that are behind the male, the stud dog that you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to,
True.
if you can, put all, or if it's a dog that's a fair way away, see if you can get some videos. But the thing is to see them in the flesh, put your hands on them and read their pedigrees and know what's wrong with your bitch, what you'd like to address or improve.
True. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Now, I want to actually move on into one of the factors in ethical breeding, which I feel is something which which everybody should be doing now. And this is about health testing in boxers, right? Because we want this breed that we love so much to not live to 6 years or 7 years. We want them to have a full life, a healthy life. Now, how do you advocate health testing? You know, it's a kind of a misnomer. I know you do.
Yes.
But I want to hear your views about health testing.
You always ask for is the dog heart cleared, because thanks to all the work that was done in England and then over into America, the hearts, because they were wondering why all these dogs were dropping dead at 5, 6, whereas really you want your boxer has a good life expand over 10 plus. So definitely that. Right.
What do you feel is the most crucial test of them all? You know, because I've asked this question for all the guests that come on this program, because there's a lot of tests that could potentially be done.
Well,
what do you think is the most crucial of them?
I've got a good vet who says yes, there is a heart murmur, and no, there's not. And if there is, recommend at about 3 months of age, we go to the university and have a Doppler echo done. A colour Doppler echo done. I know when we brought out Murphy, Turo's cross time, that's one of the things we insisted on, was a Doppler being done, and it was actually done at the Texas University. And also the semen, both the dogs that we got from America, their hearts were clear.
Wonderful. That's perfect. So you would say heart is the most important testing that you would recommend for testing in terms of health testing for boxers?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Good. Now,
touch wood in Australia, there's not too many issues on hearts because of all the work that was done back in the 80s. Right.
Now, I've heard there is actually also a new kind of testing that's happening in Australia for it's called it's for testing diabetes in boxers. Is that what is that about?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay. All right. No worries.
Diabetes.
Now, you did mention, Juanita, about the artificial insemination, and you actually brought semen of these dogs.
Yes.
I want to get your views about artificial insemination. How important do you feel artificial insemination is a tool for breed preservation or progression?
Bit of both, because now that it opens up the world, it broadens the field for selection of stud dogs. And you can, if you like, we've got frozen semen put down of a few of our dogs. So we've got them that if you're looking around for something, you can use your own semen from the past, because some of the dogs of today, you may think, oh, I'm not 100% happy with that. And the processes of frozen semen have come a long, long way. The frozen semen we brought in from the States, we've had a litter of 10, 9. It was 9 on one insemination. But the majority, even from naturals, to me, you can really bring up a nice litter of 5 or 6. And I think the lowest I've had of an AI was 1, and that was due to the bitch. She aborted a couple along the way. We're aware of that. But artificial insemination with frozen semen, yes. It just broadens your horizons, opens up the gene pool.
Right. I'm actually going to put up on the screen,
Yes.
A litter of your boxes. And my next question is about about the evaluation of the puppy.
Yep.
What is the right age, according to you, to select a boxer puppy with show potential?
When they're first born, you don't like to disturb things too much. You see them and say, oh, gee, that's nice. And you just wait till they're up on their feet. And then all of a sudden their personalities develop. And when they're on their feet and they start to get around is when you really start. So about by 6 weeks, you start to get a better idea of their conformation because you handle them more and you have them balancing and you put them on a table, and that way they're getting used to you feeling them, and you can look at their turn of stifle and how their front assembly is, and their mouths, they look straight because they haven't got any teeth there yet. And look for their eye pigmentation is lovely then, and you can check for third eyelids because it's nice to be able to show a dog who's fully pigmented.
Right, true. I'm going to play the small video that I have here for. I'm sorry. I'm just going to play that video here, which I'm obviously having troubles playing here. It's
maybe in the middle. No.
Well, I'm gonna come back to that in a bit.
With that, the puppy or with the green plate, like when they first start lapping, that's when you start to see where their personality, who's the guts of the litter and pushes everybody away. And when the other one there is, that's where they're chicken carcasses. That's when they're playing their tug of wars and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. Now, I think this is the most difficult decision that any breeder would make. And I think as you know your lines better, I think you get better at picking your puppies because there's more consistency. You know what you're going to have to pick. But my question to you, Juanita, is in assessing the show potential of a boxer, how would you rate a good puppy with outstanding personality and show temperament over a puppy which is got great conformation? It looks just like the ideal specimen, exudes type, but does not have the temperament. Which one would you rate one over the other in terms of the show potential or the show prospect?
Well, I can give you a personal example of this one. When we used the surfbreaker semen for the first time, I had 2 beautiful, a bitch and a dog in the litter. The dog was a red, the bitch was brindle. Lovely. The dog, everything put together right. I was showing and handling both of them, the bitch and the dog. Well, the bitch was put together lovely and loved the world, was a showman. But the dog was put together and would go to the show. I'd be showing him and he'd basically go to sleep on you on the stack and try to get him motivated. It was as if to say, whatever, let's go for a bit of a saunter around the ring. Whereas the girl, you'd get there and she'd be on her toes as if to say, oh, look at me, everybody. And that was turned out to be our grand champion. That's right, topless bikini, multi-best in show winner. But her brother was a very good producer. He just didn't want, it was so laid back. I couldn't care less. So you've got to have the type, the movement, and someone who likes to be there. Yeah, that's her, who loves to be there with ring presence.
Right.
Otherwise, you're wasting your time and your money.
Right. But again, going back to that question, is that is that a big decider for you to pick up a puppy that you want to keep for showing? The
Yes,
temperament?
because we here in Australia, in England, it's slightly different. They've got the numbers in the breed and they have a lot of boxer specialties. Whereas in Australia, we have to compete in the all breeds ring. Whereas if you're at a specialty, the judge might think, oh, lovely dog, but gee, wish he had a bit more oomph, and you could still get your first because he outweighed all the others in that class in his attributes. But when you're competing in the all breeds ring, you've got to have the whole package.
Right. True. Agreed. And I think the personality plays an important part in an all breeds ring for sure.
Yes,
right?
It does.
Right. I understand. And I want to actually talk about the dog that actually caught my attention many years back, 22 odd years back, when I saw that World of Boxer. I'm talking about Prince Charming.
Yes.
So how did Prince Charming come about? Was he actually was he actually was he an easy puppy to pick? Did he had that potential when he was like a puppy? Was it an easy decision to keep him?
When he was up on his feet in the box, yes, he did. And another thing is with puppies, you don't drill it into them. You let them enjoy it. I had heaps of fun as a puppy, although at times I was sort of embarrassed because you'd think, oh, let's go for a run, but you go one way, I'll go another way. And, I love being at the shows. But they've really got to have that personality and don't overshow them when they're too young. You want them to enjoy being out there.
Right. Now, I want to actually, you bred a lot of your dogs have been grand champions. Grand champion is a dog which is not just met the requirements of the championship, but they've actually gone and they've won a lot, and that's the reason why they've been recognized as a grand champion.
Yes.
Now, I want to actually ask you about about what happens in between the years. I'm talking about what happens in the head. With certain dogs, they have it in the head, and they want to show. Like that's what you said, right? You mentioned that about Topless Bikini and her brother who didn't want to show.
Yes.
But in terms of, could you actually, as a handler, you're a handler of, you're of repute. Is that something which you train a dog to be, or is that something the dog should have in themselves? I want to show attitude.
They should have it in themselves, but also it's known as a team. The rapport you develop with the dog. And when that's that photograph there of Rudy, and when he won that, I had been away with work for a week and I turned up on the Friday back home and he was so over the moon to see me. And that day we went out and he just showed his heart out because he was happy to be with me because he hadn't seen me for a week. And sometimes I find, and you see it too with people with their dogs there, it shows weekend after weekend and the dogs are getting sour. They need a break. You need to know when your dog, although he's there at the show and he'll do it because he wants to for you, but he hasn't got that oomph. So you think, right, not going to have them out for a month or so. And it's just, you treat them when they're puppies and it's a game. It's a plaything. Or you find out what they really like to bait on and just so that they enjoy being at the show.
Right. True. Very, very true. Juanita, I wanted to actually,
and you have to stay fit too to run with them.
Right. Now, you have had a lot of grand champions, like I already stated. But when do you stop showing a dog? Do you actually, there is no rule about when to start. There's a rule about when the dog should be started to show. Because when he's ready, but is there a time when do you actually call, when do you actually pull the curtains down? Do you actually stop it? When do you do that?
With the bitches, you want something from the bitch to go on, like with Topless Bikini. She won, I think about 24, 25 best in shows, and we wanted to get something from her. So we pulled her out of the ring, and that's how we got Melodrama. Now, we took her back into the ring, but as Melodrama got older, you could see that daughter was going to beat mum and take mum out on a high. Don't drag them around the ring that they hated. They've done their thing, they've produced stuff, and retire them. Topless Bikini had a favourite toy, this green dragon that she'd bitten the head off, and God help anyone who touched it. And I got a lovely photograph of her curled up on the lounge with it, and that's it. And males with boxers in the show ring in Australia, probably about 5 or 6 years of age, if their health is right, or it may be a bit when the grey hairs start to appear on their forehead. But you've got to know when the dog doesn't feel as if they want to be there. So therefore it's the team, and you sense it. And you say, no, I'm not going to let him be beaten by rubbish.
Right.
And when inferior dogs start to go over and they've made their mark, they've produced children, let them just enjoy retirement.
The life of retirement. Yes. True. Agreed. Very, very true. I think most of us don't know. Maybe we stop it too early, or we actually take it too far. I think right, like you rightly said, assess what is happening. Is the dog enjoying it, and is he winning? And if that's the case, continue to show. If that's not the case, that's you got to actually he's got to do something different. It's totally important, for the well-being of the dog. Now, looking at the pictures of your dog, and I'm going to put more pictures of your dog up on the screen. Now, your dogs are always in, the best of condition. Your show dogs seem to be, this is one of your dog, Red Alert. I've got 2 pictures of Red Alert here. How do you keep the dogs in, what is the best form of exercise that you would say is for a boxer?
Well, with exercise, the regime is about 15 minutes free running of a morning and of the evening, and walking on the road, so that you just go for nice walks, 2 to 3 kilometres of a nice pace, and not flat, a bit of uphill and downhill, just to keep that toning in. And also I walk the dogs that I'm showing so that you talk to them and they talk to they look at you, and you just do the odd free stack and try and stack them along the way. But it's mainly 15 minutes free running, morning and night, chasing a ball, doing whatever, but road work as well.
Right. That would be
road work, just to keep their feet nice and tight. Although they've got nice feet, but you still want to keep them up on their toes and nice and tight.
True. And again, on the topic of what's the best diet for a dog? I know there's a lot of different views about what is the best diet: kibble diet versus barf diet. What has worked for you? What have you found to be most effective for you?
I have been Purina when it was Friskies. Now my dogs are all brought up on the Pro Plan. I got the puppies are brought up on Pro Plan, and fresh meat and chicken carcasses, raw chicken carcasses, because that's good for their teeth and get the extra calcium in. And my adult dogs still get raw fresh chicken carcasses for breakfast, and then for tea they're looking at I'd say 2/3 soaked, slightly soaked. Pro Plan Performance is what I'm using, and fresh meat. Raw meat. But with the raw meat, it has been frozen first for a minimum of 48 hours to help kill any bacteria, even where we get it from, because it's for the dogs. It's from a pet abattoir. They also recommend it freezing, but by the time my dogs get to have it, it's been frozen for over a week or more. And that's basically
right. So
supplement-wise, only the bitches when they're pregnant that they're on a little bit of extra, but that's what I find the best thing. And I always believe from the inside out for the coats. Occasionally, it might get a bit scurfy here in winter because where we are in Canberra, in Goulburn, which is just outside of Canberra, we get down to our -5s and 6s. We had snow last year, but no snow this year. And I do use some horse products. It's called Pride's Easy Oil. It's a horse supplement for coats. And just the regular brushing, every second day just to keep the loose hair at bay, because hydrobathing really disturbs and gets the hair out.
Right. When you say hyperbathing is too much of bathing the dog, right?
Yeah, it's for bathing the dog, to loosen the hair. It's like a spa bath, hydro bath. Yeah.
Right.
And it's easier on your back too, because you walk them up into it and you're standing upright doing it.
Absolutely, for sure. Now, I want to actually ask you some questions about your handling as well. I know we almost actually heading to 10, or we are past 10 p.m. in Australia. Not going to keep you in there for too long. You got stuff to do. Now, when it comes to handling dogs, do you actually, you're a handler of repute. I've heard stories about how great a handler you've been over the years.
I could do with a pair of younger legs at the moment.
So, what are your tips on owner handling? What are your tips to those ones that are actually watching this show and would like to handle? What do you think? What do you think are the advantages of owner handling versus a handler picking up a dog?
Owner handling, I think we'd put it down to the thrill of the win. That you personally have done it. And when you get a big award, I remember my first personally handling my first best in show. I had to basically outmove an Afghan with a dog called Champion Thasrite Black Knight CDX. He was a multi-best in show ringer in the confirmation, and in the obedience, he won what we called a CDX, winner of winners. They do the same type of thing in obedience. I handled him in the show ring, and we had him in partnership with the Kents, and Hayden handed him in the obedience. But I was never allowed to go and say hello at the beginning of a trial. I had to turn up later and hide, because when he saw me, he thought, oh, we're going to show, which happened one day. He was doing obedience off lead, and he decided, I'm at a show, and decided to prance around the ring. That, I think, is the thrill of knowing that you've done it. We here in Australia don't have too many professional handlers. We have the odd one or two, and that's about it. And you have to do it and work together as a team with the dog. Don't just take the dog in and think it's just stacked there and he looks like a bag of potatoes. And when you're handling, you have to know the good points and the bad points. No dog is perfect. They all have some form of an imperfection, and just show them off. And especially if you've got a show machine, just let them show themselves off.
Right.
Because I personally have had handled 10 boxes, different boxes, to best in shows, and 2 Boston Terriers. And there's a lot of work and campaigning a dog that you can go to a show, say, with 2 dogs, but there's one dog that you're there to concentrate on, and that's what you do. You concentrate on that dog, because it's easy to travel with 2 to look after and run around together. Like if you're going away, they amuse each other.
True. Now, we're almost at the end of the interview, Juanita. I have just a few more questions for you.
Yeah.
Now, I actually, and again, this is something which actually I ask all our guests.
Common mistake.
Do you have any breeder superstitions?
No, I don't. Don't have any.
Okay. All right.
Oh yeah, I just saw up there that other question. What's the most common mistake that?
Yes.
Yeah, they let the dog do what they want. Let the dog take over. You have to know, the dog has to know you're the alpha, and you work as a team.
Right. True. Very true. Very true. And is there and again, my add-on to that add-on question to that comment is, do if let's say, for example, they say the dog has to be in a particular mindset in order to perform at its best.
Yeah.
Do you feel a owner handler does not draw the line? For example, an owner handler is actually spoiling the pet silly at home, giving it a lot of affection, and they're expecting the dog to perform at a particular level. Do you think the owner handler is at a disadvantage when they actually have the dog and the
if you're going away, if we were going away to box of specialties or to really big competition, the dog would be in the kennel 2 nights beforehand, so that they weren't allowed to be lounge lizards, so that they knew something was going to happen. And they never slept loose in the house or loose, because they could take over. They all the dogs have slept, except when they're retired, slept individually in crates of a night time. If they're bedding and everything, you say into bed, and they'd know to go into bed. Because you don't want them to be sooky. That's my belief. But they have to know their boundaries, like children know their boundaries.
Right. True. Very true. Yeah, because I've actually heard people tell me that they have to have that mindset. Mindset is extremely important, and they have to be wired up to actually perform, right? So they cannot relax, and while they should enjoy what they're doing, but they should also have that mindset to win.
And I've found too, showing a Boston and a boxer at the same time, campaigning and taking them off, great, because they were both wanting your attention. So when it was the Boston's time to go, show their head off. When it was the boxer's time to go, show their head off.
Right. True. And it's always a joy to show a dog which wants to show versus a dog that doesn't. So I totally agree with that point. Yes. Now, again, I actually wanted to ask you, in all the dogs that you've seen over the years, in the last 41 years that you've been in boxes, which dog in the past do you wish you could have owned, and why is that?
I know there's been a few. You can't just say one. Now, England was, as I said, it was Glory Lass. She was so balanced, and to watch her move, she was lovely. That was now, and when we went to America, the dog that took my eye was Vancroft Prime Time. I saw him indoors being shown, but then when Kate Pillade took him outdoors, you should have seen the pair of them. That was just unbelievable, the way they just sailed around the ring. And also here in Australia, there's been a lot of good dogs, but there was one, I made a comment. So yeah, I thought there was a lovely brindle bitch that was imported from England by Mark Johnson. Her name was, she became a champion, and she won a Boxer National under Alice Downey from America called Walk on Skittles. Her pet name was Sally. And I made a comment, the only thing wrong with Sally is that I don't own her. She was a lovely bitch. That was... If I don't know,
right.
Yeah, so that was that.
Right. Any interesting experience? I know you spend a lot of time in breeding and and showing dogs. Any interesting episodes that you want to share with our viewers? I know you have a few. I know you have a few, but I want to hear from you. I want viewers to hear from you.
Well, I mentioned I had Bostons. Well, many years ago when I was when I've gone to shows and I've had a group, best in group with my boxers, with a boxer, and then I've had a Boston Terrier who's had a group, and I've always had to hand off because I would always stay on the boxer, my Bostons. Now, there was many years ago, there was I had Black Knight, and I had a Boston called, he was a champion, Boystock Bon Appetit, Harry. And I'd won the group. And so I got a friend who has Dobermans. He said, "Oh, yeah, I'll handle your Boston, Juanita." Yeah. Because, off we went into the ring. My Black Knight, Clay, as he was called, was standing there. He'd done his lap of honour and the judge had gone over for best in show. Then it was my Boston's turn, because being boxer is utility. The next group is non-sporting behind, which the Boston is in. So as Damien takes off with Harry, as he goes past us, he does a nip on the leg of my boxer and barks at him and just continues on in the same pace. And it's sort of like brought the crowd down. And Clay just stood there, as if to say it was only that little shit. So there was that one. Another one which we'd just come back from America, and we're showing, and there was a male I was showing, and also topless bikini. And we'd won out of the show, and we'd won both challenges. And so decided I'd stay on the male. That way Lizzie, who's used to me, would just follow. So as we're going around for best of breed, I happened to accidentally clip my arm on a fence pole of the ring, and I went, tripped, and crack. Everyone heard this crack. And I couldn't move, and I just held the dog. And David sort of came up near me and said, "You're right." And I said, "Get away," because this dog and the bitch, Lizzie, they just did not get on. And I said, "I don't want a dog fight." So David just carries on and gets round to the front and stacks them. And a friend of ours tells the story about, Juanita's on the ground having broken her leg, and David just jumps over her and goes to the front. And that's the story that gets told around. But the truth be known is I could not move because I was in pain, and I was holding the dog because I didn't want anything else to happen. And we were lucky that there was a polo cross on that day in town. They had 2 extra ambulances. So the ambulance was there pretty quick and off to the hospital. And I was out of action for approximately 6 months, of which David then had to campaign topless bikini, because she was in the top 10 dogs in New South Wales, and to keep a dog up in the top 10 and a bitch, you have to really get out there and campaign them. Yeah, right. So that'll be mine. That was sort of like my experience.
Right. Juanita, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure having you as a guest on this interview, Indian Boxer Ring. A lot of perspectives, a lot of knowledge, and this is going to be a permanent record. For this interview, it's going to be available on YouTube for those viewers that want to watch it again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any final words or thoughts before we conclude this interview, Juanita?
No, thank you for inviting me. It's been a bit of a trip down memory lane, trying to remember and go through things, and hope I've given enough constructive information for your viewers.
Yes, you certainly have.
That will help them.
Thank you so much again for your time. You have yourself a wonderful evening, and again, have a wonderful day, viewers. Meet you again in another next interview. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Now we'll turn this off.